So I said, why shouldn't I be allowed to mate with a squirrel in the name of science? Doc, I'm not being funny, bro. Can we speed this up a little bit? My wife's about to give birth. I've got a game that I need to go to. Don't you worry, boss, okay? I'm on the case. Oh, how sweet is that? A new baby boy. All right, let me just put him down so I can cut the umbilical. Yo, wait, where did he go?
What
the fucking hell's happening?
Yo guys, it is your boy Niren here, and you are watching FTW. This, of course, the series where I bring to you the best and more frequently the worst of what football has to offer during the last 7 days. What has been kicking off in the world this week? Well, up in the north of England, and a prisoner was filmed making the biggest escape from the law since Arsenal's number 5 on the run after escaping a prison van. He dropped the shoulder on police officers and was seen running across a field. I've got a prisoner on the run for you, Diogo Dalot. Arrest him immediately for stealing a living. How does this even happen? The policeman was ready to throw in the towel immediately after seeing the suspect over 6 yards away from him, and he doesn't have a car to use to chase him.
Am I supposed to chase after them?
Onto the football though now, and there's plenty to come, including a Make-A-Wish child scoring in the Premier League, Jean-Philippe Mateta putting a sanitary pad on his ear,
Yeah, of course.
and Mikel Arteta asking Ricardo Calafiori's aunts for nudes. But when I do it, I'm a menace to society. I mean, who'd blame him, to be fair? Have you seen Calafiori? That DNA must go absolutely crazy. But we start with... Jesus Christ, there's no rest for the wicked, is there? Oh, how bamboozingly belated. I made a full video about this already right at the start of the week, but Liverpool were beaten 2-1 in the Carabao Cup final at Wembley as Newcastle ended their 70-year major trophy drought. It's now 0 days since their last silverware. This now month turning into a little bit of a travesty for Liverpool after the Paris Saint-Germain Champions League exit, a month of treble dreams. No, sorry, I've mispronounced that. Terrible dream. All I know is some Don from Guinea-Bissau has cursed Jamie Carragher for everything he said about AFCON. There will have been head loss from him in the crowd most likely once again. And no, I don't mean through Newcastle's owners. Sunderland fans could be seen releasing air from tyres from Newcastle's coach heading down to Wembley. But based on performance, it was Liverpool's coach that never arrived for the game. Now going into the week, Thomas Tuchel announced his first squad as England manager. And it included Newcastle's Dan Burn for the very first time. He was clearly inspired by England.
Come on, England!
No tall phobia from Arne Slot as Liverpool manager. He doesn't see height, clearly, as he matched Dan Burn from corners by having him marked by part-time Oompa Loompa extra Alexis McAllister. Liverpool's set-piece coach couldn't believe his eyes when he saw Dan Burn rise 9 feet higher than him for a set-piece.
Look at the size of that fuck.
And that would pay off for the Magpies as eventually he scored the opener just before half-time. The second half saw no change in performance from Liverpool, and Newcastle went 2-0 up thanks to Alexander Isak in his 100th appearance for Newcastle. His celebration did not spare Virgil van Dijk. Arne Slot really cost Mo Salah the Ballon d'Or in this game by not playing him whatsoever. The Dutchman's tactics before the game clearly just vibes alone. Yeah, no, Mo Salah was non-existent in this one. Not really through his own fault, to be honest. He didn't receive like any service at all, but was firmly outperformed by Speed at Wembley. Speed doesn't know what he's got himself in for and will be struggling against Ibrahima Konate in training drills when FSG bring him in on a free. Virgil van Dijk was quoted as saying that Everton playing in the Merseyside derby in the Premier League is their cup final, but at least they turned up to theirs. Virgil was too busy getting bounced by Sandro Tonali. I will be escorting Luis Diaz out of the first team immediately after his performance. And generally, it was poor from everybody. I mean, we were all outperformed by Comedy Shorts Gamer. I could be seen waiting for Diogo Jota to make a good decision in similar fashion. Heads will roll after this performance in terms of who starts in the next game. And no, I don't mean Newcastle's owner. One Liverpool fan had already converted. He could be seen in the crowd wearing a PSG cap after just being beaten by them in the Champions League round of 16. They replied by saying, if you can't beat them, then join them. It's a shithousery award for the Ligue 1 leaders. If they repost this, by the way, if they sign Virgil van Dijk, I will piss on the floor of the Louvre. Oh, I don't want to see that, lad. Either way, for Newcastle, this was a joyous occasion. It was their first win of a major trophy since 1955, after a Carabao Cup winning run that involved beating 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in the Premier League. Sean Longstaff was 3 seconds away from hitting the stairs thanks to confetti. One flag had Joe Linton edited as Thanos on it, and it was wholesome stuff for the Murphy twins. Jacob, who of course is a real cult hero, I think, for Newcastle fans, given he was there before the takeover and has really stepped up his performance whilst the rest of the team has improved around him. Him and his twin, Josh Murphy, celebrated the Carabao Cup victory, and one Newcastle fan was telling the story of how he was sat next to their grandparents, who were really wholesomely talking about Jacob being their boy down on the pitch, which is it's just beautiful, innit? Slightly less wholesome stuff, though, going on outside of Wembley.
We'll get that through the filter.
Hey, got any gear?
we might not get that one through the filter.
Whatever gear that was must have been taken by Liverpool's scouting department, because apparently they've contacted Alexander Isak to say what? Congratulate him. We ain't spending all that money on him. Have you seen our owners? Now, of course, Liverpool were playing in the final there. They weren't playing in the Premier League, which meant that the Gunners could play their game in hand. And Arsenal won versus Chelsea to bring the gap at the top of the table down to 12 points. I swear down, Liverpool, please don't do this. I swear, I will kill myself. There'd have been more entertainment for you if you read Michael Owen's diary than this game.
And this is no ordinary jobber. It's got special powers.
As Mikel Binteta went on a one-man mission to make Arsenal fans watch rugby instead. To be fair, they'd be second in that if they supported England too, so maybe it'll suit them. Mikel, who ran off from a post-match interview after being asked about Arsenal's title challenge, pretended to do the same after this game. It looks like an AI video, but it is funny from him, to be fair. Meanwhile, Italian left-back Riccardo Calafiori had some interesting words about his boss, who apparently asked him for pictures of his family and then to describe what he was willing to do for each of them to, like, I don't know, protect them or whatever. His brother's got pictures of Calafiori's uncle playing golf in West Lancashire on his phone. He has a foot fetish for sure. This guy's weird, genuinely. He'll be blackmailing Calafiori over causing harm to his grandma if the Italian gives away a penalty in the next match.
I nearly broke Nanny's leg. These things happen, unfortunately.
There was beef down on the touchline between Jurrien Timber and Enzo Maresca as the Dutchman told the Chelsea boss to try harder. Bro, try harder is a crazy thing to say to a bald manager. He's lost all of his hair from trying. Meanwhile, if I'm Chelsea, I'm tearing up that part of the United deal where they're obliged to sign Jadon Sancho. We might have to call him Jason from this point onwards because it's over. His brother's going to be playing for JD Sports next season. His highlights from this game are travesty, as they have been kind of for the last couple of months. And apparently the Blues are genuinely contemplating paying extra to United to get out of the agreement that they are obliged to bring him in permanently. This man's going to be the first ever non-signing transfer fee. Leicester's planned strike action from scoring continued as they were beaten by United elsewhere. Leicester are the first team in English top flight history to lose 7 home games in a row without scoring under Ruud van Nistelrooy. This is the amount of fans that could do a better job up front than Patson Daka if they were to run from the Leicester end. These lot are so bad. Rasmus Hojlund even scored in this one, for fuck's sake. He ended his 21 game goal drought. That is mad as a striker, bro. It's literally your job.
That's his job. It's middle of the goal.
Ruud van Nistelrooy could have subbed himself on. And then scored for United as well. Now, apparently the Premier League have announced that Rasmus's cutthroat celebration is actually okay. It's acceptable, even though it's kind of a little bit violent, technically speaking. Oh, but he's not allowed to pretend to be a seagull, clearly. To be fair, bro doesn't score enough for it to be an issue, let's be real. You're not going to see that celebration again till 2026. So my thoughts do go to young centre-back Aiden Heaven, who was stretchered off in this game with a really nasty-looking injury. Not entirely sure how long he's going to be out for, but it's a real shame because he just broken into the Manchester United fold after his move from Arsenal. Elsewhere in the Prem, Tottenham were defeated again. I had that part filmed from last week in advance because it's just the same every episode. Rodrigo Muniz and ex-Tottenham wide man Ryan Sessegnon scored the goals here for Fulham as Spurs were defeated 2-0. It was a battle of the centre-backs here in this game. I say battle, Calvin Bassey just threw Christian Romero to the side. Meanwhile, Alex Iwobi is clearly still a gunner at heart, tweeting, "What do we think of Tottenham?" Now, Spurs fans wildly unhappy, as you would expect. They're currently languishing right down towards the bottom of the table, beaten again here at a whimper. And Matthijs Tel had to act as a liaison officer, trying to convince them that they all needed to stick together. He should have stuck to his guns and just rejected these lot, bro. Just go back to Bayern, fam. It's a wrap. I'll never forget the Angel Di Maria quote of saying that he's doing well, and it's then a shame to be linked to Tottenham. This is why. Beefing players is not going to help. There's quite a few people like shouting and booing, but I don't think those were actually aimed at Tel. I think they were aimed at Vice-Captain James Maddison, who walked away without clapping any of them. Meanwhile, for manager Ange Postecoglou, and the stress is really getting too much. Reporters have only ever seen the top of his head at this point. Bro's looking down at every interview, and this is the view that he's seeing. Well, Ange, obviously a good start to the 25-26 season. You find yourselves in the top 4, but I guess you can't get too ahead of yourselves. At the end of the day, the Championship's an unpredictable league, right? Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you, Darren. Can't lie. When I look at Ben Davies, I kind of just want to end my life. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not gonna lie to you, Ange Postecoglou's days might be numbered, to be honest with you, as Daniel Levy was seen pictured with Maurizio Pochettino a couple of weeks ago. This must be a fake image, because Levy's actually got his hand in his pocket for once. Now, over at England training, I mentioned the likes of Dan Burn being called up to the squad for the first time. It was also a first call-up for Myles Lewis-Skelly. The 18-year-old has broken into Arsenal's first team at left-back and been very impressive despite 2 red cards. And given Lewis Hall's injury for Newcastle, him and Dan Burn seem like very competent options and ones that are in form. However, this has not gone down well with a subsection of Twitter. One user suggesting that he's got a very chinnable face, and another suggesting that he's got main character syndrome and calling him a The post they're reacting to, literally just a picture of him smiling when he arrived to the training camp for the first time. Now, I've got a full-length video coming out on this actually tomorrow as you're watching this, if you're watching this on Friday. And I saw people suggesting that he's a little bit arrogant, okay? He's a little bit cocky, and if he was humble, shut up, man. Why does a player have to be humble? Because if they are, and they're like Saka, and they're quiet, they get called PR merchants. You can't win. I find this very, very bizarre discourse. At the end of the day, all that's happened is he's stolen Erling Haaland's celebration one time when Erling Haaland started that beef by asking who the fuck he was on live television in front of millions of people, and then he decided to dunk on his forehead in return by scoring and then stealing his celebration, as I mentioned. It's very to and fro, very back and forth, and Erling Haaland didn't seem to receive this backlash, especially given he was also trying to beef Gabriel Jesus and Mikel Arteta that day. These lot on Twitter will have an outrageous reaction when the kid walks a little bit too quickly trying to help an old lady cross the street. I've seen people say that he's a thug because he's been given 2 red cards, one of which was probably one of the worst decisions of the modern VAR era, and the other was a simple last man challenge rather than a reckless tackle that was dangerous to the opponent, all saying that he's not got a good mentality, even though he's thriving under Mikel Arteta, who's known for removing bad mentalities almost immediately from his dressing room. In fact, any other media that's come from him during this England training camp so far seems to be really, really wholesome. Him talking about how he thought he'd got the call up early, only for it to be a phone call for his mum.
The person that speaks is, we've got your food, it's outside. Uber Eats for my mum.
No way. So you was thinking, you was hoping it was going to be a call up.
And then giving a really nice and well-mannered response to England's admin.
How you doing? What's your message to the next player that arrives?
Hope you arrive here safe.
As well as laughing with Dan Burn about his own kind of small height in comparison to the Newcastle left-back. It just seems very, very bizarre that a young black player once again can't be even remotely confident without being called out for it. I mean, at the end of the day, this kid is 18, getting his first call-up for England ever, and he's being stripped down because of one picture where he looks a little bit jovial. He's getting hate from Dons whose attributes are going down on career mode. You're 36, brother, shut up. Elsewhere at England training, and Aaron Ramsdale was on board, and honestly, this is like a summer holiday to the Bahamas for him, bro. He's actually got like competent brain cells around him. He must feel like a competition winner training with actual footballers. Back in the Premier League, and Manchester City drew with Brighton this week, but a standout feature for them was their starting 11, which, as is an annual tradition now, was drawn out by children who are Man City fans. Nice of them to let Phil Foden do some of the art this time around. And speaking of Manchester City, Jack Grealish is not on international duty due to a combination of bad form and injuries, and he's resting on holiday. Resting from what, bro? Jaeger bombs. At youth level now, and we have got an outrageous finish, okay, from a Chelsea player here who's brought out a rainbow flick chip for a goal. This is disgusting. Like, absolutely out. I need to know who's done this immediately. We need to give them a professional contract. What the hell is going on here? At Crystal Palace, slightly more serious stuff going on for Jean-Philippe Mateta. Of course, a few weeks ago, I told you about the fact that he'd been kicked in the face by Millwall's goalkeeper, and he ended up with 25 stitches in his ear. But he was interviewed by Sky Sports in a really weird fashion, as if he'd like almost passed it. The guy's not died, for fuck's sake. He's going to be okay. His ear was kicked. That's not going to affect him and kicking the corner flag for his celebration. Either way, Crystal Palace fans will be paying tribute to him after the international break. And down at Southampton, their manager has completely given up. Genuinely, Juric has said that they're going to get relegated, but they want to go down with a fight.
And as you can see, I am dead.
Now, over in Italy, and there was drama for Como, where Dele Alli came on as a substitute to make his debut for the Italian side, only to get sent off with a straight red card 10 minutes later. I've seen his highlights for this game before.
The end. The end. Make sense of that.
And obviously, given what Dele Alli's been going through over the last few years in terms of his footballing career and off the pitch, this is really the last thing you kind of want for him, and I think Kyle Walker acknowledged that by protesting on his behalf to try and not have him sent off, even though they're on opposing teams. Either that or he was asking the referee whether his wife fancied her threesome. Cesc Fabregas red card, Nico Path yellow card, Dele Alli red card in 2 minutes was not what I was expecting to see this year. But interestingly, Dele, whose challenge was actually on fellow Englishman Ruben Loftus-Cheek, shared a conversation that they then had on WhatsApp afterwards, where Ruben confirmed there was no hard feelings and that he thought that the red card was pretty harsh as well. Last year, Dele Alli said he wanted to be considered for the World Cup of 2026 in England's squad. I mean, so would I, but we don't always get what we want. To be fair though, actually thinking about it, if Jordan Henderson's getting the call up, then Dele probably deserves one as well. Elsewhere, Inter put the pressure on Atalanta by beating them 2-0 this week, whilst Atalanta put pressure on the referee's notebook with 2 red cards in the latter stages. One for Bastoni as well for Inter, and the pitch was looking pretty empty by the end of proceedings. Fiorentina fans fans made their feelings on Juventus pretty clear, with his Juve murder design in the stands. Meanwhile, off the pitch in that game, one serial robber was identified by Italian police in Florence thanks to a tattoo that he had of Juventus. Yeah, this man was held in custody and put behind bars because the police had seen his tattoo before. Imagine going to jail because you got Claudio Marchisio printed on your thigh. Napoli boss Antonio Conte will have been annoyed with his side's result against Venezia, but he was also fuming with them for not watering the pitch. Apparently, according to him, the condition of the turf wasn't good enough, and he'll have some strong words when he catches Venezia's ground staff after the game.
I prefer to kill him.
You're in Venice, by the way. There's an abundance of water in that area. How has there not been a single bit of it put on the pitch? Meanwhile, in the 4th tier and in Serie D, hide Antonio Conte away from this one because the pitch conditions are even worse down there. In Spain, Atletico Madrid faced off against Barcelona. They took an early lead here as well, going 2-0 up against the Catalan side, though Rodrigo de Paul was involved in controversy after he wasn't penalised for handballing it in the build-up to one of the goals, caressing the football here like Pau Cubarsí's sister in his dreams every night. But Barcelona would come back here from 2-0 down to win the game 4-2 in the end, and for Diego Simeone, this result plus the Champions League exit, he's one slight underperformance in training away from murdering a family of 7. Lamine Yamal was impressive here once again, and he treated himself to some wrestling action, heading over to the WWE, being shown on TV as a guest in the crowd. And it was a good job it was him and not the more violent Gavi that went to it. He might not escape the violence though if there's a Real Madrid fan in attendance who'll be inviting him into the ring and taking him out. Speaking of Real Madrid, and their young starlet is Endrick. He was interviewed with fellow Brazilian Vini Jr. as to bring up players whose names started with certain letters, and for A, he had an old man choice.
Alan Shearer.
This brother's at it again. Just because you were 37 when Alan Shearer made his debut, mate. There were more pitch problems, though, for Real Madrid and Arsenal in the Women's Champions League. The pitch they were playing on in absolute shambles. That is a slip and slide, mate. These were the scenes as Alessia Russo found herself through one-on-one. Meanwhile, back at Barcelona, and Hansi Flick made one Spanish fan's day by simply touching his tattoo when he met the supporter at training. Let's just hope he hasn't robbed anyone in the last couple of months. In France, and for international duty, William Saliba was attempting to out-aura Kylian Mbappe. Give the poor kid a little bit of shoulder room, for fuck's sake. Do this on a plane and you're getting kicked off it mid-flight. I recently told you about Lyon manager Paulo Fonseca, who'd been banned for 9 games after an unsavoury interaction with a referee. But he's also banned from the dressing room as well, and also talking to the players. He has to meet them for one final word of encouragement when he gets off the team bus. Marseille versus PSG now, and we had pure cinema. No, genuinely, their fans actually organised to watch the game in a cinema. They hired it out, and it was genuinely brilliant stuff. This should happen more often. As for Marseille, there's a rift forming. Roberto De Zerbi apparently unhappy with the training of Mason Greenwood and his attitude, and he's threatening to drop him. For being honest, probably should have done that quite a while ago, shouldn't he really? Nice to know what De Zerbi's priorities are in this situation. Meanwhile, Nantes women's side conducted their very own crossbar challenge, and the results were facial reconstruction surgery. In Germany, and Bayern Munich celebrated their 125th anniversary with like a futsal legends tournament. It included ex-pros from Bayern, Real Madrid, Ajax, Milan, Dortmund and Stuttgart, and saw Ian Robben recreate his goal in the Champions League final versus Dortmund. Poor Weidenfeller's getting PTSD. He's been transported back to Wembley 2013. Elsewhere in the Bundesliga, and Bayern Leverkusen are back. They won 4-3 thanks to a 94th minute winner from Patrick Schick again. This guy, honestly, the bro's got no serotonin left. He's not going to be capable of any happy emotions for key moments in his life. So then I said, look, I'm sorry, I just really love squirrels. Yo, sorry about that. Yeah, basically, here's your baby G. Yeah, man. I'm really happy. As for Stuttgart, and who's given this child in the crowd a full pint of beer? I don't know drinking regulations in Germany. And for right back Jeremy Frimpong, he's of course joined up with the Dutch national side for international duty, and he's trying to assimilate a little bit with Virgil van Dijk and Ryan Gravenberch of Liverpool.
You alright? You alright?
He'll sound a little bit different, trying to give the coach driver directions when his sat-nav dies on the way to their game.
Hit the parkade, flat, hit the right lane, slow right down, hit the left.
We've officially found the new Trent, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, just because he's done a Scouse accent yet, doesn't mean he's joining. He's not necessarily gonna join. Don't get too gassed straight away.
I already did.
What?
I said I already did.
But in sad news, and the footballing world is paying tribute to a young Bayern Munich talent, Guo Zhaozhuan, a teenage defender from China who tragically lost his life this week following a collision in a training match. And of course, at 18 years old, I mean, that's no age at all. My thoughts are with his friends and with his family. And similarly, equally tragically, we head to North Macedonia to pay tribute to Andrei Lazarov, a 25-year-old footballer who played in the Macedonian First Football League for FC Shkupi, a heroic individual individual that unfortunately, again, tragically passed away this week after trying to save people from a nightclub gig when a fire blazed through the venue. Andre went back in to try and save people who were trapped inside and will always be remembered heroically for his bravery. Now though, it is time for your goals of the week. We've got some beautiful strikes for you. And they all come from America, actually. First of all, starting with this lower league / college strike. I'm not entirely sure where it's actually come from. But what I do know is it's absolutely disgusting. As the forward controls the ball, flicks it over his own head, and then volleys it into the top corner all in one movement. If it is the lower leagues, get this man up a couple of leagues. Then we head over to Minnesota, and honestly, I'm just going to let the commentators do the work on this volley.
Oh, and there's no stopping that shot. An absolute howitzer. And Minnesota United have gone in front.
And finally, over at Phoenix in the USL Championship, we have got an absolutely audacious strike. The ball's kind of pinged around a little bit, and it seems like the defensive team have got the ball clear. They're safe from danger, but they're not safe from Mohamed Traore's right foot. As from like 50 yards out, he returns the ball with interest over the goalkeeper and into the top corner. I've genuinely not seen a goal like this in a long, long time. Hello all, and welcome to The Beautiful Game, the segment where we take a look at the poetic and brilliant side of the game that we love. We are back by popular demand for yet more glorious beauty. And that concludes The Beautiful Game. Up in Scotland, and we saw the Old Firm derby take place this week, and Rangers got bragging rights after scoring an 88th minute winner to win the game 3-2. Rangers' Vaclav Černý saw that Celtic supporters were absolutely raging and decided to make that feeling even worse by spraying them with a water bottle shower as he ran down the touchline for the winner. And as for Dujon Sterling on Insta, he didn't hold back, calling Celtic Park a shithole. Look, listen, I'm firmly on the fence when it comes to the Old Firm, but it has to be a shithousery award. Over on international duty, and Andre Onana is back yapping. Cameroon faced off against Eswatini, and he's decided that he's a free kick expert. Brother, it's like 25 yards out. You are not qualified. In Mexico, and one man who is qualified is Sergio Ramos, both in terms of footballing pedigree and violence. In his own words, he couldn't leave the Mexican league without getting himself a red card over there, which is why he lashed out and kicked an attacker. In Brazil and at Santos, we've actually got a beautiful, beautiful story here, and it follows the storyline of a young child called Anthony, who in brilliant news beat cancer recently. He did, however, claim his eye, so he has one prosthetic eye, and given he's such a big Santos supporter, he decided to actually engrave the Santos badge into his prosthetic eye, which A, looks absolutely gold, but B, grabbed the attention of the club's owner. He got invited to the ground for free, and he even got to meet his hero in Neymar. In America, and there's big news for the USL, which are the leagues below Major League Soccer, they have announced that they now got promotion and relegation. Before now, if you were an American side, you basically had to, I don't know, apply to be in a different league. Now it's based on performance like the rest of the world. I can't wait for this to be adopted by the MLS and for Lionel Messi to be confused when Inter Miami get relegated to League One. At Ajax now, and Daniele Rugani ended up getting a cut on his head. They'd run out of bandages, so to solve the issue, they gave him a swimming cap instead. At Fenerbahce, and Jose Mourinho has taken up a new job. Clearly done with the controversies of Turkish football and managerial stuff, he's decided to become a barber now. Speaking of managers, over in Croatia, Gennaro Gattuso is head coach at Hajduk Split, and he had a little bit of a disagreement with a Croatian pundit live on air.
You always speak very bad. I don't have respect for you. You speak very bad. You speak very bad. Come on.
Juegas muy mal.
No, tú tienes que portar respeto per le persone. Yo estoy hablando.
No con la mano no.
Y esto es el mi estilo.
No estilo, con la mano.
Tú tienes que portar respeto con le persone.
Hay que tener respeto.
Honestly, at this point, have a scrap. Genuinely, like, change it to like pay-per-view, like live on air, the TV channel changes it, and just have a fight in front of everybody. The microphone's been put on the table, so you have to go. In Ecuador, the manager who wore a wavy suit last week is back at it again in the Copa Libertadores. Meanwhile, Uganda qualified for the African Cup of Nations, and for one of their coaches, it is life. It means everything to him, hence why he got these tattoos to represent the nation that he works for. Closer to home, we saw the Steel City derby between Sheffield United and Sheffield Wednesday, and it saw the Blades victorious. There was a victory before the game had even kicked off, though, from this United mascot. Chris Wilder could then be seen chanting after the game, happy with his side's victory. And things things got even worse for Sheffield Wednesday when they sent their allocation of away tickets accidentally to Oxford City instead of Oxford United. At Charlton, and they've been getting artistic with their match programmes this year, put them all in a certain order, they actually combined to make the Charlton badge, which is absolutely beautiful. Love that attention to detail. And elsewhere, we've got the story of a married man who drove 400 miles to meet a woman, but instead of meeting the woman there, it turned out it was actually a hoax created by a rival team's fans. His wife's just divorced him and probably become an ultra of that team now, realistically, let's be honest. Leicester's Hamza Chowdhury has decided to turn allegiance to Bangladesh rather than playing for England's national team. I mean, he wasn't going to get into England's national team, but he's a good player in his own right and, of course, has Bangladeshi heritage. And the welcome that he got in the country is absolutely crazy. Now, given Bangladesh are barely even in the top 200, right, out of 210 nations in the FIFA World Rankings, the fact they are so invested in a player choosing them for their national team, I really do hope this spurs them on in the world of Asian football. A team they might face in Asian football or World Cup qualifying is Australia, and in their domestic league, it's been absolute chaos recently. A series of ridiculous scorelines going on in their A-League. We even almost had a 5-5, only denied late on as an equaliser due to VAR. I mean, at this point, so much stuff's happening in the game. Just switch VAR off. Anything goes. If it's 5-4, then just run no rules. In Ukraine now, and I don't think there's anything more this team could have done to try and score without actually putting the ball in the back of the net.
Пробиває по воротах, головою м'яч летить в поперечку, Шабанов ще в поперечку, Кампуш пробиває, Безера б'є по воротах, Шабанов ще один удар, Кампуш над воротами, це тривало вічність.
We've got an unconventional corner spot here somewhere else around the world. I mean, you've got to work with what you've got, but I'm sorry, if the corner spot's about 30 yards above sea level in comparison to the rest of the pitch. Congratulations to Madura United. They managed to make it through to the semi-finals of the AFC Challenge League from Indonesia. They're doing a very good job on the continental stage, but less good domestically. They're actually in the relegation zone, probably gonna get relegated, and yet they made it through to the semi-finals of a continental tournament. Shout out to the Marshall Islands, advertised really as the last country in the world to not have a footballing national team. They released their first ever kits, and now finally they're playing their first ever game upcoming soon. And there's drama in Wales for TNS, or the New Saints, who confirmed they've not yet received money for Brad Young, a player they sold to a side in the Saudi second division. I made a short on it. It's a very weird transfer to happen really anyway, but they may have genuinely found the only broke Saudi Arabian club to sell this guy to. Now that it's time for Still 0-0, and you guys know the score by now, this is a segment of the show where I bring to the best of Sunday League and amateur football. And this time around, we've got perhaps the most unconventional finish of all time. Now, what do you get in Sunday League football? A lot of dedication, a lot of fight, and a lot of passion. And that is included here by this Don trying to get a ball in the back of the net. He's sliding in, only to kick it against the post. It hits against his face, and then goes in. I mean, he might have knocked himself out, but he's put his side 1-0 up, so you can't complain. On to the weird stuff though now. First of all, we've got the most expensive sandwiches in football. Down on the 5th tier of Italian football in Serie D, and Onese, well, they've been fined in order to play games behind closed doors because fans threw paninis at opponent players. €1,500 was the fine, and now the fans can't go to the next game. In the 3rd division of the United Arab Emirates, and it's not going too well for this team down at the bottom of the table. If you thought Southampton were bad in the Premier League, these lot are currently on 0 points and have a minus 145 goal difference. Fair to say they're probably going down, and clearly not that sporty at all, despite the name. But finally, in a story that I actually told you on TikTok, if you follow me over there, you can do, it's at the official FNG. Bulgarian side Arda Kajali were rocked by the news of one of their former players passing. And so, as any team does when a former player dies, they paid their tributes and their respects by holding a minute's silence before the game kicked off. The slight issue with all of this was the guy hadn't even died in the first place. Yeah, by the time the game had even ended, they'd been told of their mistake and that their former player, I think he was like 78 years of age, was in fact still alive and had actually been watching the game. Watching your own minute silence is absolutely crazy. He must have been confused watching this one as he heard reports of his own death whilst eating a ham and cheese sandwich. That though is going to wrap up football this week, and I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, then feel free to slap a like on the video, and of course subscribe if you are new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is at the official FNG on Twitter and on Insta. But it's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.